LATD Nation, what is good? We are back once again with another video, of course. As always, we in the studio live, Charleston, South Carolina. One of our last videos of the year. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
Started this year with this podcast, and, you know, it's just continued to go up from here. You know, it's crazy to think that it was probably March or April we started. Yeah.
April or May.
Yeah, and to think that, you know, 8 months flew by as fast as it did. You know, we've been around to cover some of the most, I guess, groundbreaking and most relevant stories in pop culture this year, whether it be the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, whether it be Cardi not dropping his album for some dumbass reason. We'll get to that. But yeah, no, it's just been a lot of moments that we've been here to cover. I mean, the election happened this year. I mean, we don't really talk about politics on this channel for good reason. But yeah, no, that happened. That's another event in 2024. But yeah, man, you know, a lot happened when it comes to all of those things, but a lot specifically, much more happened when it comes to film. This was a good year for film, honestly. I say that this, in my opinion, is probably one of the strongest years that we've had in cinema of the 2020s. I think that overall it was a really, really good year. It was really consistent. You had a lot of bangers. You had a lot of surprises, a lot of things that necessarily people weren't expecting to be as good as they were, but it took off anyways. And we're here to discuss none other than our top 5 films of 2024. Now, I guess we'll go ahead and get into it, starting at our number 5. You want to go ahead?
Sure, my friend.
Yes, sir.
That was weird. Anyway, my number 5, I had Monkey Man. Now, I know there's a lot better movies out there than Monkey Man, but in my personal opinion, it was just a really fun movie for me. And it's really,
I agree.
Especially because of all the action in it. It felt like John Wick Chapter 4 all over again, but more gritty. You know what I'm saying?
I remember describing this, and this was one of the first movies I think we ever reviewed. Matter of fact, was this the first?
This is like the first one was Civil War.
Yeah.
Which is an honorable mention on my list. Civil War. I thought it was really good. It just didn't hold a candle to all the rest of my movies on this list.
I agree.
But
it was the first really great movie of the year, at least in my opinion.
No, I definitely agree. Monkey Man was number 2 in my honest opinion. I think Monkey Man might have been our 3rd or 4th movie that we reviewed.
Yeah, it was around there. It was one of the very first for sure.
So yeah, man, check out that one, man, for real. But all I know is Monkey Man really touched my heart, especially because of how it spoke about, you know, the downtrodden and the elites versus the downtrodden and everything like that. Action aside, like even from the lore with Hanuman and everything like that, the performances were good. I mean, they were serviceable. They were serviceable. Like it's a really high octane action movie anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that this was really one of those movies that was necessarily geared towards like the performances on an emotional level, more so I guess a physicality sort of like, because I heard that Dev Patel I think broke bones during the production of this film. If I'm not mistaken, that's what I remember reading.
Right. I know he did a lot of his own stunts, though.
Yeah, that if I remember correctly, there was a report that he actually did break a bone or two during the production, during the filming of this movie, which speaks to his level of dedication and intensity that he brought to the role. But you go ahead.
Nah, but all that being said, like it really was one of my favorite movies of this year. Just from that, like y'all know, I'm an action movie fan.
Same.
Just from that alone. That's what really, you know, brought the movie up for me, and the fact that they played 151 Run by JID.
Oh yeah, that was definitely tough. That was cold. That was very unexpected. I remember, and you know, it feels like this was just yesterday. I remember seeing this right as spring was getting ready to begin, and you know, I remember that moment, and us just looking at each other like, oh, okay.
Right now, when I first saw the movie, I saw it by myself. So I told Rod, I'm like, Rod, you better like this. Oh, yeah. I ain't gonna tell you what song is in it, but you're gonna like it.
For sure. And you know, that's the thing that I think is really great about, you know, looking back on all these movies over this past year is like not even just a celebration of, you know, the film industry and, you know, the excellence that it brought us this year, but also kind of like a celebration of, you know, our growth and our evolution when it comes to this podcast, because it's like, you know, looking at a lot of the names on this list, it was just crazy, you know, thinking about seeing them and, you know, reviewing most of these movies individually And, just kind of looking back on everything, kind of
Exactly.
how we've improved and evolved. But, hey, go ahead. I digress. Me being sentimental or whatnot.
No, it really does. Like, we didn't have these displays before. Shoot, we got more coming too.
For sure.
So we trying to do everything right this year. We got 107 subscribers. Thank y'all so much.
Appreciate
for all
y'all.
the support. Continue to support us, please. Like us on Instagram at LATD Podcast, and LATD Podcast 843. Same thing with TikTok, LATD Podcast 843.
For sure. We're gonna keep going till the wheels fall off, man.
Most def. TikTok, Instagram, please keep supporting us. But I'm pretty much done with Monkey Man. Like I said, I loved it. Great movie. Love the messaging in it. And you're number 5.
Yes, sir. Before I go to my 5, I just want to say I agree with Monkey Man. Monkey Man was definitely in consideration. It was an honorable mention. Yeah, it almost made it, but man, there's just a movie that I liked slightly more. Matter of fact, and Deadpool and Wolverine, also want to give a shout out to that. That's an honorable mention as well.
Alien Romulus is an honorable mention for mine too.
For sure.
Like, it almost made the list until I got reminded of Monkey Man. I'm like, Monkey Man got to go on the list.
I'm not mad at that. I really ain't. Dev Patel gave a great performance. It just was a really well directed movie.
Oh, so let me say this too. Just from his development from all the way to Last Airbender.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Exactly. To this, I'm like,
Lion. This is an actor I've actually been checking for a minute. Dev Patel is really underrated in my opinion.
I agree.
He had a Best Actor nomination in 2017 for Lion. And, that was a really, really good year for film. Like 2016, the 2016-17 circuit was really, really strong. But, hey, going into my number 5, I actually have Smile 2. I really, really enjoyed this movie. More so than I thought I would because, I remember way before we even started this, back in 2022, we saw the original Smile. I had convinced you to see it, even though, you wasn't checking for it at all.
I'm not a huge horror movie fan, but I'll still go see him.
For sure. And I remember liking Smile.
I ain't gonna see him again, but I'm gonna see him.
I remember really liking Smile, but I wasn't necessarily like a diehard fan of it or anything. It was one of those movies. Saw it, for the Halloween season, spooky season, as everybody called it now. And I just kind of moved on with it. It never really had a legacy within, my movie canon or anything. It wasn't anything I ever really thought back on again. But Smile 2 definitely is going to be the exception because I really, really did like this movie not a lot. First of all, we got to highlight Naomi Scott's performance. She gave an incredible performance. I think that, honestly, it's Oscar worthy. But, the Academy, film fans know they don't tend to recognize how they don't tend to recognize horror very much. Like, for costume and prosthetic and stuff like that, like special effects.
Right.
But when it comes to like direction or when it comes to anything like people really check for, like special performances, they're not really going to nominate a horror movie. So it's a shame that more than likely she's going to get snubbed because I do believe that this is a Grammy. This is an Oscar-worthy performance because when you really just look at the range of emotion she displays, she has to display guilt, grief, happiness, sadness.
Mostly sadness.
Yeah, just really a woman that is just losing her mind. And
literally,
I think one thing that really made this movie great, I think in terms of like the way that they had her, Sky, that's who she plays, pop singer that's kind of been through a recent tragedy, whatever the case may be. Just the way that they kind of take her being famous and kind of play into that and just the isolation, the way that they use a very common idea with celebrity culture that, they're very isolated and they're very closed off, because, it's lonely at the top. The way that they use that as an effective mixture of the horror and the terror that's going on in her life with her being, terrorized by the same smile demon from the original. I think that they do a really good job of kind of sort of making it feel, obviously it's a supernatural movie at its core, but it's still a lot of real, understandable, relatable human emotions, human trauma, just human
trials and tribulations, everything, man. When I first saw this movie, it really, like, the first one was good, but this one really kind of elevated the the whole human aspect of it.
Yeah, it did a really good job. It was very psychological.
Exactly, and this one is no different because she really does a lot of this stuff or did a lot of this stuff to herself. So
it's implied throughout the movie.
And see, the thing is, the other one was like a psychiatrist or something like that. But she did a lot of this to herself in Smile too, because she was a drug addict, alcoholic, or something like that.
Yeah,
and then
something to that effect.
And she messed up a lot of her own career, and that's why nobody believes her. I feel like the original one, nobody believed her because, well, they just thought she was crazy. But this one, I like that they actually doubled down on this one and say because she did all of this.
Yeah, that's one thing.
They gave her a reason. She gave her people a reason not to believe her because she's done all this crap before.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a good point. They do a really good job where it's like people don't believe her and they don't have the most faith in her because of the fact that she was addicted to drugs. She was addicted to alcohol. So she was already somebody that had lost a lot of credibility in their eyes. So, anytime that she's freaking out or anytime that she's kind of crashing out and losing her mind in front of people just look at it like, is she relapsing? Is she back on the substances that she was previously doing? So that was a really good aspect of it. It just played into a lot of human emotion and just humanity, and I think that that's really what made it strong. I think that in terms of the actual scares, it's very effective.
Oh my gosh,
it's very effective because we seen this movie in like a Monday evening, something like that. And I'm not gonna lie, this movie did definitely have me a bit paranoid. There's some scares that were very effective and very unexpected. And just also, I think that this movie improved from better overall cinematography, better understanding of the way he wanted to convey a lot of these fears and these hallucinations, and I just think overall it was a more competently directed movie.
Facts.
And I think overall I'm really, because before I liked the original Smile, but now I'm invested because I want to see what they do with Smile 3 because
I hope please just let this thing die, bro. I don't want to see it again. I want to see it again, but I don't because I don't like being scared. Yeah. Going back to what you said about this being psychological and the scares being effective, it had me to the point where I didn't even. When I was just here chilling and waiting for Rodney to show up, next thing you know, who was that? It's me. I'm like, oh.
Boy, yeah, no, Smile 2 definitely get you in some of these scenes.
My bad, bro.
It'll definitely get you. And that's one thing I really didn't expect because the original, to me, wasn't really scary like that.
Right.
But this movie right here was actually really damn effective in terms of some of the scare. And I think what also made it really work is that it was just a heightened tension throughout the movie just because he does a really good job of conveying this paranoia, this sense of dread, this sense of like this thing could be playing tricks at any point, twist and turn. So it just really does a good job of feeling, even when there aren't jump scares or things like that, it still has a very unsettling and unnerving tone throughout it, especially as it goes further and further and certain things happen that kind of isolate her more so from her people. She already has a rocky relationship, as we mentioned, with them. Right. And it just, you really feel sorry for her. You feel a lot of range of different emotions
not to cut you off, bro, because I know you really in your mode right now. We got a whole review on this movie. You know that.
Oh, yeah, we do. My fault. My fault.
No. I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good. You good, but yeah, you right. So, yeah, Smile 2. Definitely my 5th favorite movie of the year. You go ahead.
Okay, so my number 4 real quick. This is a movie that we haven't reviewed on the channel that I only saw, The Wild Robot.
Okay.
The Wild Robot, for me, was just a really nice, touching, heartfelt story. And get this, the premise of this story is a robot stuck in the wilderness, in a forest, so to speak, who raises a bird.
Crazy.
Raises a bird. It's based off a book, first of all. So I get that, I get where the creativity comes from. Just hearing that alone, you wouldn't think that this movie would be that good, but no, it's really good especially because of how the robot's development goes from obviously like hi, I'm so and so to this more loving, caring, developing emotions for a bird that she accidentally killed. whose family she accidentally killed. Because she's like, she don't really know what she's doing. Robot, yeah. So it's like, it just kind of from that premise alone and how she's raising it, and then the bird itself, I forgot their names and everything, but the bird itself is much like an outcast because he's like the smallest one, and it really touches a whole lot of different types of morals of the story. You know what I'm saying? From having more heart, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like how from having more heart to having more drive and more feelings and connections of working together as well. Like it's just a really nice, heartfelt, touching story. It just that really, like, I didn't expect it to be good. First of all, Lupita Nyong'o actually plays the robot herself, and it just touched my soul, bro.
I need to watch it. I really wanted to, but I kind of missed it.
Yeah, no, like it's really, 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 really good. Like, I saw this when we was all in Conway that one time.
Okay,
all I know is Lupita Nyong'o did a thing. Kit Connor did his thing as Bright Bill. That's the name of the bird. Pedro Pascal was in this movie too.
Of course he was. What movie is he not in at this point?
Exactly. Like, just like I said, really just for all the life lessons that it gives you in this whole movie all at once. And keep in mind, it never feels jumbled. Everything feels like it's flowing seamlessly. Like I said, Lupita Nyong'o's character, Roz, she's the robot herself. She becomes more human and more. I guess human, yeah. More like emotional and more like a caring mother to Bright Bill, who becomes more of a leader of himself. Before he was just like this guy who everybody looked down upon, and now he just shows up and is showing out. So it's like I don't know what else to say about it that I haven't already said already. It's a really good movie. Give it a
watch for sure.
It's a really good movie. Please give it a watch because oh my gosh! And like I said, this is a movie about a robot lost in the wild who raises a bird.
Crazy.
Your number 4, please.
Yes, sir. Okay, so yeah, now my number 4. And, we had obviously spoke and we had discussed our list before we started recording. So, yeah, I know that this movie's on both of our lists, but mine is a little bit lower than yours. Transformers 1. Now, Transformers 1 was a big, big, big surprise. Like, you know how I mentioned earlier that a lot of movies this year were like kind of came out of nowhere and kind of were surprises.
Right.
This is a prime example of it right here. Because the thing about the Transformers franchise is that, we all know it's had a lot of ups and downs. If you are in your early to mid 20s, maybe even late 20s, you grew up with the Transformers movies in some capacity. Them movies were definitely a staple in pop culture, especially with the first 3. But I feel like as they went on, and mind you, the first one is still maybe the best one live. Now, I lied because Bumblebee. I definitely feel like Bumblebee's better than that.
Yeah.
But of that original,
much better.
Yeah, of that original Michael Bay run, definitely the original.
It's the third one for me because the second one was too raunchy.
The second one was something a lot of the second one would not fly today. That was like you really go back.
And that's what I mean.
That movie, like 2 with 09, like Mudflap and Skids. That was crazy.
And then they killed off Jazz probably for the same reason they.
No, they just wrote Mudflap and Skids out of the third.
No. He was there. They were there. They were there. It's just they just weren't very.
They weren't prominent.
Exactly.
Because they knew they had messed up with the second one.
And then the fourth one just...
Which to me is crazy because it's like you don't think no other person that was on that movie, working on that movie, tapped him on the shoulder and was like, hey, yo, this is insane. What you doing here?
Right. Like, I felt offended.
But yeah.
Plenty of people did, actually.
For sure.
That's why people hate that movie to this day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think it's necessarily even that bad.
It's pretty bad.
No. Don't. I don't think it's that bad, but it's bad.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just because you burn your hand on a stove doesn't mean it still ain't a burn. You feel me? So
that's facts. But yeah, so the Transformers franchise has had kind of a rocky sort of run. You've got some that are better than others, but for the most part, they haven't really been too critically praised outside of Bumblebee. I like Rise of the Beast. What was it, Rise of the Beast?
Rise of the Beast, yep.
Last year, live action, kind of continuing that sort of I guess they're more so leaning towards
retconning.
Not necessarily retconning.
No, I would say that's what they're doing.
I think what they're doing is more towards sort of adapting sort of the G1 era Transformers, kind of that nostalgia sort of thing they're doing now.
Yeah, but I still say they retconning it too, because Bumblebee, in his own movie, he becomes that same Camaro that Sam Witwicky bought.
Yeah, that's true.
But then he becomes in Rise of the Beast and everything. That's why I say that.
Yeah, I got you. So I feel like these movies, not the live action, kind of trending more towards sort of that 80s, 90s sort of nostalgia, whereas the first 5 Transformers were more sort of like modern sort of, I guess, updates of that idea. And I feel like with Transformers 1, I ain't gonna lie, they cooked. I didn't have any expectation for this movie at all. Not to say that I don't like the other Transformers movies, but I mean, I wasn't really going and expecting a masterpiece. But boy,
Right.
this movie right here was real good. First of all, Chris Hemsworth as Optimus, as a young Optimus,
I didn't expect it.
a really good performance. To the point where I didn't even. There were some times where I couldn't even recognize that it was him.
Same thing with Brian Tyree Henry. Like when Brian Tyree Henry, who plays D16 or Megatron in this one, when he becomes Megatron is really when you don't expect it to. Like his performance was really good.
He does a really good job of coming across as very benevolent and very sort of good natured. But once he becomes Megatron in the movie,
that pivotal moment.
In that pitch, the way he switches his voice and everything, and he's kind of more aggressive and more angry.
Right.
Whereas when Orion Pax becomes Optimus, he becomes more sort of, I guess, regal, sort of like well-spoken, more articulate. I guess you could say, not to say he wasn't before, but he sounds much more mature.
Right.
And I think that's one thing I really enjoyed about this movie is that it combined a lot of the aspects of Transformers past, obviously the animation, the Cybertron stuff. Because this movie takes place before the Autobots and the Decepticons exist. You know, this movie is how they formed, how the two factions formed.
Right.
And they do a really good job of telling that story. They do a good job of showing the relationship between Optimus and Megatron, how they were once brothers in slavery, and then they just ended up they ended up coming to blows and I guess resenting one another and having this animosity, this genuine hatred. And that's one of the best things about this movie is the emotion, the raw emotion that they get out of these characters, out of these voice performances. It adds so much more to Transformers after having seen this movie, because it's like you feel that real animosity. Because the thing about Transformers, especially back in the day, it was kind of more of a just good for the sake of good, evil for the sake of evil. It was just kind of, Saturday morning cartoon, which of course that's what it actually was, but it didn't really have a lot of that emotion or any of that. You're just supposed to hate the villains because they're the villains. You're supposed to root for the heroes just because they're the heroes. But this movie presents it in a much more complex way, and where it's just kind of like you feel sympathy for Megatron in a way that previous depictions didn't really give any kind of credence to the idea of. And I just think overall they built a really good foundation to go further. I think that they definitely need to continue with this.
With this version too.
100%. This is easily the most competent Transformers adaptation to date in terms of like film, and I just can't wait to see what else they do with it. It was great.
100%. So you said that was your 4?
Yes, sir.
So my number 3 is, we already talked about it, Smile 2. Okay. Now, from my perspective, when I watched the movie, I still thought it was great. I'm not watching this again, like I said. I don't feel like being scared, like I said. But it really did like open my eyes. That's probably how celebrities really feel in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
If we're being honest, they're not heard. Like heck, Justin Bieber even had a whole album based upon it, or a song based upon it on called Lonely. I'm like, I get that. Like I get where a lot of these people, because at the end of the day, these people are still people. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the whole point of this movie. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the first one was to make the point of that everybody struggles, but this one was really to make the point that these are still people at the end of the day, and they shouldn't get any special treatment or any treatment any better or worse than anybody else.
For sure, because at the end of the day, everybody's so human. Everybody has demons. No pun intended. Everybody goes through something, man, and that was a really great aspect of this movie. Right.
Well, we already talked about it in advance, so go on with your number 3, man.
Yeah, my number 3 is going to be Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Man, I hate the fact that this movie failed at the box office.
Yeah, I do too.
Because it's such a good. I think the reason that it failed was because it arrived so late after the initial hype of Fury Road. Because the discourse around Fury Road at the time, everybody, it made a lot of money. Easily the highest grossing Mad Max movie. People really loved Furiosa. People were asking for a Furiosa spinoff. You know, the discourse around that movie was very strong, but with it being almost 10 years later, I think most people kind of moved on from Mad Max as an IP. And I just think this movie just kind of came too late to really sort of cash in on the success and the hype of Fury Road, because Fury Road is considered to be one of the greatest action movies ever.
Right, and everything that made Fury Road good is definitely in Furiosa.
Oh yeah, no, it's the same direction from George Miller. It's the same cinematography. It's the same ambition in terms of like the set pieces, the sound, everything. You know, it really sells the world in terms of like, as we've seen. You know, it feels very dirty, very apocalyptic, very hopeless, but very eccentric.
Right.
And that's what I've always really loved as a fan of Mad Max. Anya Taylor-Joy gives a really great performance as Furiosa. Arguably Oscar worthy, but I don't know if they're going to nominate her.
I wouldn't say it's Oscar worthy. It was good, but I don't think it was. It was kind of like how Charlize Theron was last time in Fury Road. Like her performance was good, but it was just kind of like how people say John Wick's Keanu Reeves' performance in John Wick is good.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I can see that for sure, because she's very silent through most of the movie, so she kind of relies sort of on her eyes and her body language to convey sadness or anger.
And that's why.
Yeah, and as we know, this is a prequel. This is set years before Fury Road. This is kind of telling the story of how Furiosa became who she was by the time of Mad Max Fury Road. And so, you know, her kind of becoming who she became is really, really, you know, cool to see. She falls in love with Praetorian Jack, a certain character that kind of is reminiscent of Max himself, has a jacket, kind of dresses the same way.
More talkative.
And true. And I think that was kind of
slightly more talkative.
I think that kind of was on purpose to kind of contextualize why Furiosa helped Max eventually, because he might have reminded her of Jack. And overall, good movie, really long. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
the pacing definitely was not an issue, but it definitely felt like it dragged in certain places. But overall, it's more of what we want to see as Mad Max fans. I want Mad Max: The Wasteland to still come out, even though
I agree.
This movie didn't necessarily do what people thought it was gonna do at the box office. But hey, man, we can only just hope and pray that we do get a sequel, because now it's up in the air. Honestly, we don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, shit. Especially for it to have been almost 10 years for this. Man.
Right, yeah. It's like a Cardi album. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But
basically.
But yeah, so going on with my number 2, we already talked about Transformers 1. But the thing is, with Transformers 1, how it kind of affected me a lot. Like, I'm going to be real. You would never think of this from a kids TV show type thing. First of all, the trailers did not do this movie justice at all.
I agree.
At all. Like, and just seeing how it just portrayed the movie as like this fun little like teen comedy or kid comedy, yada yada yada. No, it's pretty dark.
It definitely is a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be, for sure.
Yeah, like especially Megatron's like descent into or D16's descent into Megatron is very much in a way justifiable. Because, you know, Sentinel Prime is another jerk in this iteration of Transformers. And he enslaves everybody, enslaves everybody who should be able to transform. It's like the whole thing with Monkey Man with the elitism versus the downtrodden and the poor and the rich and the famous and this, that, and the third. So there's a lot of conflict there as well. Like, a lot of your favorite Transformers aren't even Transformers in this one until like the very end, like Jazz.
Yeah, and that's
hopefully they don't do him dirty in the next movie. Hopefully that they do.
Exactly, that is one thing that they did. Is a lot of the people that we know would become Autobots and Decepticons, they're there, but they haven't taken on that mantle yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, especially the Autobots faction, the Decepticon faction, they're already like an established high guard or whatever.
Yeah, but they haven't become the Decepticons by name yet, though. They haven't got Megatron to assume leadership. It's actually Starscream at first.
Ironically, because y'all
my
know
favorite Decepticon.
Y'all know Starscream is a punk, so it's like my favorite Decepticon is probably Soundwave, bro. Like he just but anyway,
and Soundwave was there too.
But my D16 though was my favorite character because how he just kind of when he turns into Megatron and Brian Tyree Henry's performance, like I mentioned, it just goes from like this really nice like chipper, oh let's go do good and this, that, and the third to no, I want this motherfucker to die.
Just the anger, like I said, the anger that he is able to portray.
Exactly. And then the twist at the end when he becomes that pivotal moment, like I mentioned when Rodney was talking about it, when he doubled down on him becoming Megatron, when he lets Ryan Pax fall, saying like, "I'm done saving, I'm done saving you." Nah, it's fine. He just tells Ryan Pax, "I'm done saving you," and I'm like, that's kind of wild because he saved him this whole movie too, and and that broke my heart. I'm like, I'm in the theater like, no. I'm like, they become enemies, but it's like it's about how they become enemies, you know. And
that's why I'm saying it added an extra layer of emotion because in almost every other Transformers adaptation, it's just good versus evil just for the sake of it. Like there's no real emotional core or really backstory as to why there's so much animosity between these two. They just hate each other.
And the thing is, he never forgave Sentinel for that. He ripped Sentinel in half.
Yeah, they show it too, which I was. I'm like, oh no, this movie is different.
Like he bisected that dude with his bare hands, and all I know is.
And the Sentinel begged for mercy? No, I don't think
he was trying. He was trying to crawl away.
Yeah, that's what it is.
He just grabbed him and ripped.
Because as a matter of fact, what happened is that everybody around D16 Megatron is telling him not to do it, and he does it anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then when he puts Megatronus Prime's like takes his heart essentially. That's how I'm gonna put it because the way I was gonna say it was gonna sound very pause-worthy. But anyway, he puts his heart and then he declares that he's Megatron. I am Megatron. I'm like, whoa. That made me think of. I'm being for real. That made me think about my life. Like, shoot, whatever. If I become that angry, will I become him? I don't think I want to be, man. Like that's why I learned to forgive people, bro. So it's like but anyway, with that being said, man, it's really one of the best movies of the year for me. A big surprise. Same thing with The Wild Robot. I just didn't expect a Transformers property to be this good.
To be this detailed, this emotionally charged.
Exactly, because all the other ones, like Rise of the Beast was good, and you got and then all the other live action Transformers, they're very emotional in some cases, but they're more emotional from us because we hate them.
Literally.
But we don't want to see these characters become who they are in this movie, but we know that they become these characters anyway.
Exactly.
And then that's the whole magic with this movie. It just makes you root for the bad guy essentially.
Yeah.
And I kind of love movies like that though. They make the bad guy feel like an actual victim rather than them just being bad and being for the sake of being bad.
I agree. I like it when movies give us a reason, not necessarily like you can empathize with the villain. You can understand where they're coming from. And I think most villains, when it's that strong, like I think most villains, like the greatest villains, it comes from a place that you can understand what they went through. You know, like Vader or whatever the case may be. You know, villains where it's like you can
Khan from Star Trek. Sorry.
No, you good. Like just villains where it's like you may not necessarily agree with what they're doing, but they make a lot of good points for what they're doing.
Exactly.
You know, they give a plausible motivation to the villain where it's understandable.
Exactly. Those are my favorite types of villains. But anyway, your number 2, bro.
All right. Shit, my number 2 is Alien Romulus. Now, Alien...
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. 100%. Yeah, now, Alien Romulus, for me, I've been a big Alien fan for a long time, honestly. It all started, unfortunately, with Aliens Colonial Marines. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I haven't seen that one.
If anybody... It's a game. And, you know, it's not worth it. See, that's what I'm saying. The fact that you don't even know that's a game, that shows you how little it was worth. But I digress. So, yeah, Aliens Colonial Marines kind of jump-started my love for Aliens as a franchise. I really love the original. I love Aliens. Never really saw Alien 3, to be honest with you, but I have seen Alien Covenant. And so I've always been a casual fan of this franchise. I've always checked for it whenever there's been anything new in terms of development for it. And I remember hearing that Alien Romulus was coming out. And I was like, oh, okay. So and it was reported that it was kind of going back to the root and the feeling of the original Alien franchise, like the first movie where it was more towards kind of creepy and sort of a true horror movie, because later movies became more akin to action, and that really kind of got started with Aliens. So I really like that they kind of went back and went to its roots, and it's all the better for it. Fede Alvarez, he directed this movie. You might know he directed the Evil Dead, I guess, reboot in 2013.
Was that the one that we watched?
I mean, that's in the same vein and in the same lane, but that's more so like a spiritual successor. Okay. I'm talking about this one. This one came out in 2013.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and he also directed Don't Breathe, very underrated horror movie of the last.
I need to watch Don't Breathe.
Of last decade for sure. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it when it came out. But yeah, no. Alien, for me, what really made this movie great is the atmosphere. As usual, any Alien movie, what really sells it is the atmosphere. This being alone in space on this spaceship sort of feel with this creature just hunting you, the perfect life form, the perfect organism. And it was really effective in terms of, like, of course, because the thing is about this movie is that aside from Rain and her adoptive brother, Andy being the android, the movie isn't necessarily the best when it comes to its characters.
Right.
But honestly, when it comes to Alien movie, yeah, characters do matter, but
it's more about the alien.
It's more about the xenomorph. It's more about this thing that's just hunting and just lurking in the shadow, can pop out at any given moment. And that's pretty much all she wrote. But yeah, this movie, overall, great performances from Kaylee Spaney, from David Johnson, as Andy. And he has kind of a dual role where he plays Andy, who's more sort of timid and sort of shy. And then once he gets the chick, he becomes more sort of very callous and very cold, very analytical.
That's my favorite version of him.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah, no, Alien Romulus for me was definitely up there. Like I said, it's an honorable mention on mine because Monkey Man just beat that one out. But no, I definitely agree. It was
one of the best horror movies of the year. I might add,
yeah, to be honest, yeah, it
was
very
effective horror.
Like to me, was it better than Smile 2 though?
For me personally, yeah. But I think that's my bias as an Alien fan. I think that's more so my bias. But it set a really good precedent for the future of the franchise. Because the franchise has been kind of up and down for the last 20 or so years. Because, I mean, people kind of like Prometheus, but not really. Because Prometheus and the Alien Covenant, that was supposed to be a part of a new Alien trilogy, a new Alien story. But because of the mixed reception of both, they scrapped that and went back in the timeline, because this movie's actually set around the time of the original Alien. So they just kind of said, let's just do what we know people would want to see from an Alien movie, and it paid off. Fans like it. Critics really loved it. And I think the only real complaint people have with this movie is that it's a little bit too samey in terms of, like, plot points in certain things, like certain characters. It's a little too on the nose with some of its homages to previous installments. But overall,
especially the get away from her, bitch line, I get that.
But overall, man, still a great movie. I agree. You can't take its merit away just off of that. It's still very much its own movie. It's a very strong one at that.
They make a lot of dumb decisions in this movie too, though.
Oh yeah, but what do you expect from horror? Yeah, what do you expect in horror movies? That's what they do.
Yeah, true. Like I enjoyed it for myself as well, man. Like I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, because I know the very first one is a classic.
Yes, for sure.
And then they actually have, like, the characters in there actually have, like, camaraderie. And these guys don't really.
They do, but not really.
But it's more like
And these characters in this movie,
I scratch your back, you scratch mine type of camaraderie.
and they're younger than the characters in the original Alien, so they're a little bit more on the immature side.
Right, exactly.
Like these are young people.
But that's the thing. It works, man. It really does work for their type of dynamic. And to be honest, that dude Bjorn, who kept messing with Andy, yeah, he was getting on my nerves too. So
for sure, definitely. So when he bit, I was like, okay, now we cooking.
Right.
Now we cooking. Let's go.
I wasn't like, to be honest, when all these characters died, I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't even sad, really.
And that's the biggest issue with this movie is that they don't do the best job of establishing a reason to care about any characters outside of just those two in their relationship.
Exactly, because in the first one, they're all friends. They all care about each other. They're there for I guess for their colony, for their people. These people are just here just for their own selfish reasons.
Basically, like the first 30 minutes or so of the original Alien, they're just kind of chilling. So it builds up their relationship and their camaraderie. So it makes it a lot more impactful when the xenomorph inevitably starts wreaking havoc. But hey, you know what? That's pretty much all I have to say. I think that this was a strong, I guess, course correct for the franchise. And I'm just really, really excited to see where they go from here, man.
Yeah, same here. But my number one is a movie that we saw way earlier in this year. Dune Part 2.
All right.
I was excited for, the first Dune was okay. The first Dune was it was actually good. It was great. It was good.
I enjoyed the original Dune.
Yeah, no. It was really good. It just was just kind of boring, kind of slow.
Very much so.
But I think that's because I expected it to be like Dune Part 2. Mm-hmm. But I understood that it had to set up the universe and everything that's going on.
I feel like if Dune 1... basically, Dune 1 walked or crawled so Dune 2 could
run. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because when Dune Part 2 started, I'm like, okay, they're about to doing their thing. They're getting everything established. And then once the action scenes really start going and everything really starts ramping up, I'm like, oh, I'm here for it. It was the same feelings that I had in Transformers 1. About like the whole scope and scale and the cinematography and the performances and all the special effects and everything it
just feels it feels very big. It feels very expansive. It feels very layered,
grand,
detailed. It feels like its own universe, really for real.
Right, and I can't wait to see what they do more with it. To be honest, because the Atreides needed to get their get back bad.
Oh yeah,
and I was happy when he goes from this timid, I'm a leader, yada yada yada, and then he flips a switch after he gets revived or whatever. He's like, oh no, it's go time now.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna take your daughter. I'm gonna kill your nephew.
And of course, a strong performance from Timothée Chalamet.
Oh yeah,
one of the most heralded actors of his generation for good reason. I mean, he don't miss.
Another honorable mention was Wonka, first of all.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he killed Wonka.
But no, Timothée Chalamet really conveyed all the anger of that he had held inside him because of what the whole High Council or whatever did to his family and everything, killed his dad and killed his best friend and everything. So I was happy to see him get his get back, but I'm just kind of worried about how he's going to be in the future.
Yeah,
and that's all you can really ask from these type of movies because he betrays her, but.
Walks out on her.
Just kind of walks out. Yeah, just kind of for the good of the people, for the most part, mostly for himself. But it's like you got everybody because it conveys a feeling that hey, something ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with that being said,
sense of dread.
Yeah, a sense of dread. Well, I want to say dread, but a sense of anticipation.
Yeah, I can say that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So. Hey, we'll see how this goes.
For sure. Definitely another strong director showcase for Denis Villeneuve, who is, I guess, one of, if not the premier sci-fi director of his generation. He did Blade Runner 2049, very underrated movie. He also did Arrival. What else did he do? He's done a lot of sci-fi. So this is somebody who really understands how to make universe come to life, and this is of course none the exception. It's really, really, I guess, expansive. Like I said, very grand, very ambitious movie, and I really enjoyed it. But It just didn't make my top 5 personally.
Nah, it definitely made mine. I'm like, yeah, no, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. This is going on my list, easy.
For sure.
But yeah, your number one.
My number one, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Boy, what a wonderful day, man.
Right, especially for me, because the Eagles done beat the brakes off of the Cowboys on the 29th. So, hey, there we go.
But yeah, no, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, man. I'm a huge fan of the 3 that came before this.
Same.
Being Rise, Dawn, War. Huge fan. Some of my favorite sci-fi movies of the previous decade. And with it being as long as it's been since the last one came out in 2017, right after we had graduated high school, as a matter of fact. It was literally the month or two so after. With it being so long since, and with Caesar's story having been completed with the end of war, you know, a lot of people argued that this movie didn't need to exist, and I honestly was kind of in the camp of that's true, but I want to see what they do with it. And I'm happy to see that this movie is doing a really good job so far of building its own legacy. First of all, the characters are great. I really like Noah.
Same.
You know, the young ape that's kind of venturing off and deciding his own path and sort of deciding who he wants to be in this world. 300 some years removed from Caesar. It's really interesting the way that they position Caesar as a figure in this movie, because with the first 3 we knew who Caesar was, and in the fourth one we got a lot of people who didn't know Caesar know of him, and it's been so long that who he was and his teachings are starting to get sort of corrupted, which is what we see with Proximus Caesar.
Right, yeah, they definitely treat Caesar more like God, essentially.
Yeah, a religious sort of figure he's become.
Right, and then just seeing how that you know, kind of like, you know, corrupts over time, and how people will take his word, kind of like how people have done today, in real life,
which is a really cool parallel. And that's one thing that they've always done a really good job of, is drawing parallels between humanity in real life and sort of this fictional sort of virus.
Yeah, something like that, like some kind of virus, yeah. But no, this movie for me was definitely, it's an honorable mention for sure. Like, I enjoyed the mess out of this movie when I first watched it, but it just couldn't crack my top 5.
Yeah, because, I mean, it gives you everything you want. New characters, the lore is continuing. Great villain, very underutilized villain.
Very
Proximus Caesar. He should have had way more time to develop. I honestly wouldn't have been mad if they kind of made him an overarching villain.
Right.
Because he's sort of the leader of this tribe of apes that have corrupted and perverted Caesar's teachings for his benefit and his gain.
Right.
To the point where he's even proclaimed himself to be Caesar himself.
Right.
Almost Proximus Caesar, of course.
Right. Kind of like Julius Caesar from, you know, those old Roman times, you know.
Yeah.
Nah, I definitely get it though, because I think Proximus was more like Koba in a way, because Proximus didn't care much for humans either.
Yeah.
But but Koba wanted to eradicate humans. He saw humans.
Koba wanted his get back. For
right.
Sure.
Koba, yeah. I don't blame him. He's kind of like Megatron from Transformers 1, to be honest. But this version, not of Koba, but this Proximus Caesar, I saw how he tried to use humans as how they could be useful to him. Yeah, because he kept one alive to teach him more about human culture and how to read and this, that, and the third.
Because in this world, this is way generations removed from the first 3. By this point, humans are nearly extinct.
Right.
They've lost pretty much everything, all sort of foothold that they had on the world. This is when it's been hundreds of years of the apes ruling and the apes being in charge, to the point to where humans have regressed to where most of them can't even speak.
Exactly. They pretty much become the animals instead of the apes.
Yeah, they pretty much become the apes of their own time, ironically.
Right. But yeah, man, I thought this movie was great though, for real.
And I mean, I'm really excited to see where they take these new characters, where they take this lore, where they kind of further, not really so much the story of Caesar, but Noah, who is maybe implied to maybe be a distant relative, maybe sort of a descendant.
Right.
That remains to be seen. but he's definitely showing a lot of the same leadership qualities that Caesar did. So I really want to see how he becomes, I guess, the Caesar of his generation.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, no, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is my number one, man. I had a really, really good time with this movie. I feel like it's almost been forgotten about a little bit.
To be honest, I forgot about it when I was making my list. I ain't gonna lie.
I think,
but we did a bunch of reviews on these too.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead and check out any of the reviews that we have for these movies on the channel. We reviewed them as they came out throughout the year, and yeah, overall, great year for cinema.
100%. Now, we'll get to our worst, the ones that weren't very good for cinema.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because where there was a lot of good, there was an ass of bad.
Oh my gosh. Hey, but this video has pretty much been long enough though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely.
But please enjoy yourselves watching it though. Get some popcorn, please.
Yeah, enjoy the show. We just getting started.
Yes, sir. But anyway, I've been Jay.
This has been Rodney.
We're LATD. Hey y'all, Happy New Year. Have a great week. And this has been our best movies of 2024.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Remember, look at the details. Peace.